Sitting in the heart of the Midlands is the town of Leicester. Leicester is a very old settlement. It came to international attention recently because of Richard III's body being found under a priory. However, there's more archaeology than just Richard III. Here we have a great example, the Jury Wall, Roman Bath, and St Nicholas's Church. Priories and churches played a very important part in the medieval cityscape. The Blackfriars, or Dominicans, actually lent their name to part of the city, in this case the northwestern part, sitting just inside the old Roman city wall. Due to redevelopment of the area, Wardle Armstrong Archaeology was tasked with mitigating the archaeology in the area to be developed.
Now, as I mentioned earlier on, I was actually going to spend some time on Blackfriars, and this is where I am at the moment. Blackfriars is the site of an old Dominican priory in the town of Leicester itself, and it actually sits within where the original Roman walls of Leicester sat. The Roman walls themselves went along the line of that burned out building behind me. Now, this is one of the problems you're likely to encounter with Roman archaeology, especially in an old town like Leicester. Leicester, you can tell it's old because it actually has the suffix caster, which is Latin for castle, and it's the root word for castle, and it's somewhere where people have lived for a very, very long period of time. And Leicester effectively is built on Leicester. But what we've done here is we've taken it down as far as we possibly can. The lowest levels that have been encountered so far are Iron Age. There's been high status Iron Age activity, then low status Roman activity, which shows that the Romanisation of this period happened while people were actually still living here. Then we actually see a slightly higher status, but also a slightly more human side of the Roman occupation, and we're going to cover that in just a moment.
Like any urban site, machines were used to excavate back to the archaeological horizon. Once this horizon is reached, individual archaeological features are identified and marked out to allow preliminary excavation to take place. At this stage, hand excavation starts, with the archaeologist's tools in their trade, which is the mattock, the shovel and the trowel. Mattock and shovel for removing overburden, the trowel for cleaning back sections, which allows a section to be recorded accurately.
Now, what I'm doing at the moment is I'm actually sitting in a pit. It's one of the Iron Age pits, which is cut across by these structures and this pit itself. Now, this is how we actually look at the sequence of events in archaeology, by adhering to something known as the principle of superposition. That is the general understanding, though it's not actually a hard and fast rule, that an earlier event, such as this filling event here, will take place before the subsequent events that are on top of it. Now, each one of these contexts, which is what we actually call these events, is also numbered. Now, each number will then go off onto a register, and that register will be used to allow us to actually construct a three-dimensional model of the site once we're actually in the post-excavation phase. At this stage of the game, though, it is a case of just digging down and looking at each one of these and measuring them and recording them in sections.
One of the primary means of dating each context is by the inclusions and the finds that we find in them. In this instance, a late Iron Age coin, Samian ware, which is generally found with Roman pottery, having been imported from Gaul, but this in an Iron Age context shows that it was high status, and later contexts very often will find rubble layers and inclusions of things such as plaster. Also included in rubble layers are things that actually can come to worldwide precedence. In this particular instance, a roof tile. This roof tile, found in a Roman rubble layer, is part of a demolition. It has puppy paw prints in it, giving us an insight into Roman domestic life. Urban archaeology by its very nature tends to be very complex. Small pits, pit alignments and beam slots can actually be cut through and vie with larger trenches, larger foundations, and in this particular instance we found large column bases which had actually undergone a repair attempt because the underlying ground was unstable. This collection of features demonstrates this quite well. What I'm going to do is let Adam Slater, the site director, explain this in detail.
This section that we're looking at here explains basically the entirety of our excavation. We are again in a very large Iron Age pit with fills of Iron Age material, likely rubbish that's been thrown in there. But as the Romans first arrive after the conquest, the fills at the top of the pit here are gravel and silt put in there and packed down as consolidation deposits to fill in the old Iron Age pits. Immediately after this pit is filled in and levelled, we get this here, which is a square beam slot for a structure coming across. That would have had wood in it with upright timbers forming potentially an internal wall of the building. And later, this large base for a column associated with a masonry building is dug into the old Iron Age pit, which probably didn't know about it at the time, which made it very, very unstable. And at the same time as this column was put in, this was dug into the very top there to reinforce it and to hopefully give it a bit of support with its very uneven foundations.
The physical task of excavating the Blackfriars site is now complete. We're now moving into what's called the post-excavation phase, where all of the records that were actually taken on site, all of the photographs, all of the section drawings and plans, plus all of the finds are going to be put into a 3D map. This gives us an insight into how people lived, as well as the actual physical environment that they lived in. I'll keep you updated on that, and very soon you'll see me on the next site. Thanks for watching.